I mean, Abuelito, Grandpa always. I mean, Abuelito was always, always working, right? Like ever since I remember, my dad, he was working at the restaurant, and we'd go there too and see him and visit him, and or he would come home and then tell us, like what happened at work, who he saw or whatever. Any moments like that, kind of like what I do now, like hey, guess who walked in today, or guess who came in, or guess what happened, whatever.
Hmm.
So I always remembered Abuelito dressed, you know, sharp in his suits. And when I started working with him, when I was like, I wanted to get a job when I was young. When I was like 12, 13, freshman in high school, I was like, I want to get a job. I need to get a job. I want to have my own money, you know. And Abuelita, mom, was the one that told me, well, why don't you work on the weekends, at the restaurant with your dad. I said, okay.
Hmm.
So I actually started working was like with washing dishes in a dishwasher. But he told me, no, you should just come on the floor. And I was always scared because I was like, I don't know what to do on the floor. I don't belong there. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid of
Yeah.
making mistakes and people seeing me. But then at the same time, I was washing the dishes in the back. I was like, I hate this, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm making money here. I see the other people on the floor making more money. At the time, when working as a busboy, on a good night, I would make like $10 a night. But and it was fine. But I was like, well, that's okay. I'll work. I did the busboy thing, and I learned it. Abuelito always pushed me further and harder because he said, you're the boss's son, so you're gonna shine more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So that's why I always did more.
How would you like describe like working with him?
It was great, because I learned, a lot from him, and like I always asked him a lot of questions. It was rough. It was tough because he always wanted me. Everything has to be perfect. It's got to be done this way, and he always told me, he explained why it had to be done that way, and I would listen to him and like, okay.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to challenge him because I was always afraid, but he would always be a little upset if I didn't ask why or didn't ask questions.
Hmm.
And then, like you were saying, well, why didn't you do this? And I says, well, I didn't know. And he told me, well, ask me. If you don't ask me, how are you going to learn?
Hmm.
And I said, well, I kind of expected you to tell me anyway.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I can't tell you everything if you don't ask me everything.
Hmm.
So, like, okay, all right.
What were like some of your best memories working with Abuelito throughout the years?
When we had our own place together
When was that?
in 1988 until 1990,
Hmm.
when we had our own restaurant. It was on 48th Street between Lexington and 3rd. And Abuelito actually named the restaurant L'Etoile Restaurant. So, it was an Italian restaurant with a French name. And it was kind of funny. But people did come in. People did enjoy it. And I loved working there because I was his sous chef, you know, and I loved working in the kitchen. I loved to cook. But it was rough because, he was running the business and I was running the kitchen with the other chefs and, cooking the dishes and sending it out quick, you know, making sure everything was perfect, everything was great. And that was another thing, I wanted my dishes, the food going out, everything had to be perfection. because I wanted people to say like, "Oh wow, this dish is great." I didn't want people to say, "Oh my God, he's an amazing chef." No, I didn't want people to say I was an amazing chef. I don't need that. I wanted to say I love the dish. The fish is great. The dish was great. Same thing like when I cooked today. And I mean, that's happened a few times. A couple of times where I made something and people are like, "Oh, it's all right." You know, it's not always going to be perfect, but then I'll learn. Okay, this time it wasn't right. Maybe I got to cook it a little less, or cook it a little bit more, or a little less seasoning, or a little bit more seasoning, or substitute this item with this item. This ingredient with this other ingredient, something. And I always taste my food as I go along as I'm cooking, because that's how I learned to educate my palate and educate myself. I didn't. I never took it personal. Constructive criticism is exactly that. It's criticism, but it's constructive. It builds. So it's either to build your confidence or to build your knowledge, or both.
I was gonna say, like, what were some of your favorite dishes, like cooking with abuelito?
At home, we did a lot of Argentinian dishes. Like I learned to cook the grill because of him.
Hmm.
Always did our barbecues at the house every weekend, almost every other weekend maybe.
Yeah.
And it would always be the skirt steak and the chorizo, sausage, and morcilla, which is the blood pudding, and also mollejas, which is the sweetbreads. That's the muscle lining of the cow's neck, you know. And like people would think, oh my God, not you eat that? I was like, but if you season it nicely and you cook it the right way and you serve it, you eat it like this way, you're gonna like it. You'll appreciate it. If you don't like it, okay, then you don't like it. It's not for everyone. And even the chicken, like grilling chicken on the grill, like he would say, don't necessarily just salt and pepper. Like drizzle a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, put a little bit of rosemary on the top of it, and salt and pepper. Let it sit there, let all that flavor sink into the chicken. Turn it over. You know,
That sounds good.
yeah, it was great. I was like, oh wow, okay. I didn't know that one little thing like that could actually just change the whole dish. So I learned cooking the meats on the grill, and then both sides certain ways, and then take it off and put it up on top, letting it rest, because when it's resting it's cooking a little bit more slower, you know so you don't burn the meat. You don't burn the outside and the inside be raw. It's slowly cooking, so that when you put it back onto the grill, you warm it up, you bring it up to temperature, and then serve it. And it's like a perfect rare or mid rare or medium, whatever.
Yeah.
And then your meats are always nice and tasty. And basting it, like I always had on the side, the melted butter with garlic, and with a brush, and quickly brush it on top when it's in the grill. It gets all those nice little char and the shine and everything. And serving it, so it'd be juicy. You know.
Yeah.
But I love the grill. I love working the grill. I learned that with Abuelitos. And every time we did our barbecues at the house, everybody from the neighborhood, the kids, of all our friends, we were like, "Oh, is your father, is your dad doing barbecue?" We're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You can come over." And they always remembered Grandpa. They always remembered Abuelito for his barbecue and his sense of humor and how he was and everything, and how he always came over. They just loved hanging out with him there and watching him drink his red wine and the Argentinian barbecues and everything.
Hmm.
And then whatever we cooked, like pasta dishes. Like I learned to master Italian cooking a lot because of him and the chefs that I work with. Making my own sauce, and doing the lasagnas and doing the chicken parm and doing chicken cacciatore and doing all these different pastas and different sauces. I loved it.
Hmm.
And then have him enjoy it, and then teaching me how to make gnocchi and how to eat gnocchi and making pesto sauce and making all chimichurri and all that. I loved all those things, doing that with abuelito. You know. That's why it's always been very hard for me to this day when I go to work because the restaurant and I see a restaurant, the first thing I think of is Abuelito. You know, all the years we worked together, and him watching him grow into other level, other ranks, and him watching me grow, to becoming a server and a captain and a bartender and everything else. And I remember when he would retire, and I would call him, and I'd be the assistant manager or manager of whatever restaurant I'm at, and I would tell him, "You know what happened to me today?" Or even when I got into catering, and I was a maitre d' and a banquet manager and selling banquets, and I would tell him, and he would laugh, and and I'd tell him, I had this one idiot come in. He would start laughing right away. So he knew right away because we dealt with a lot of idiots. Everybody in the industry deals with an idiot every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know,
Would you say that like you're glad that you went down this path of the restaurant business?
I do definitely. And one time, Abuelito said to me, um, um, "I wish you went to college. I wish you had become a lawyer or a doctor. Especially a lawyer because you have that gift. You have that way of communicating with people, and you have that way of getting your point across, and like never losing a battle, so to speak, or a debate. You know, and you would have been an excellent lawyer or something like that. I wish you would have done something like that." And I always told him, no, because you taught me an industry that I love. You taught me how to appreciate food, how to appreciate service, how to appreciate people coming in, how to appreciate their looks on their faces when they would, give them something, anything. Like the one lady that asked me for a glass of water. All she asked me, and I was a busboy, and she said, "I just want a glass of water. That's all I need right now." And I got her a nice glass of ice water and gave it to her, and she was like, "Thank you," and she gave me this big smile, and I always remember that. So I remember when he said that. I remember that. I said, I remember that lady. I don't know who she was. She just wanted a glass of water. But that any of those little details, or the kid that he wanted more butter for his roll, and I got him a little dish with some butter, and I gave it to him. I said, "Look, this one is just for you and only for you." And I said it like that, like it was like a joke at the table, and they all kind of laughed. And I
Hmm.
said to the table, "Do not touch that butter. It's just for him." Okay. And they all giggled. It was nice. And he was happy. And he took the piece of bread and he buttered it and then he ate it. And I was like, I mean, I just made the kid happy with just bringing him butter for
Yeah.
bread. So it was those little details where you make a person happy that I liked. And I told him, he says, you taught me this. I seen college kids that went to culinary school or went to learn hotel management and food and beverage hospitality, and they're graduating, and then now they're still struggling to get a job, and they got to worry about paying that tuition. I says, but you taught me all this it didn't cost me a dime, other than blood, sweat, and tears. But I learned an industry that I can master today and appreciate, and I can pass it on to other people, and at no expense. If anything, it's just knowledge. You gave me a career. It didn't cost you a dime. You gave me a future, and you were my teacher. And all these other chefs that I work with, and other servers that I work with. Even the worst server was the best teacher, or the worst chefs were the best teachers, because what I saw the mistakes that they did is what I learned not to do.
Yeah.
So So every little mistake that I saw it happen, whether I caused it or someone else did, was a learning experience. And it was something. Okay, I'll remember not to do that. You know. I already told him, you gave me a career, you gave me a passion that I had inside that I didn't know it had. You gave me a future. So don't ever think that you failed, because you never failed. Okay, and neither did I. I didn't fail. I'm still doing it today.
Do you feel like you're still asking questions to Abuelito?
Oh yeah, well, you do, yeah. I always asked him a lot I because our time was very short together, you know,
Hmm.
and I understood it's because he was always working, and not because he didn't want to be home. You know, he was a hard working man. You know, we'd leave early and come back late. And then whenever I did see him, those moments were sacred to me. I want to be with my dad. I want to hang out with my dad. I want to talk to my dad. You know, even when we had our arguments at the kitchen in the restaurant, when I would be cooking something, he came in and come in yelling, you know, and I would yell back, you know. It wasn't hatred, it wasn't anger, it was just the heat of the moment because that's the nature of the beast in the industry, the food and beverage industry, the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew that at the end of the night, he was still my dad, and I was still his son, and I loved him no matter what.
Like sometimes I get like a feeling someone else is in the room, like in the corner of my eye. Like, do you ever feel like Abuelito's in the room with you?
Yep, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. I always think about when I'm cooking, and I get the feeling that he's there, you know, and I'm like, oh boy, like what do I do or something like that, like, or I get the feeling like he's trying to tell me something, and he is telling me something, and I listen to it, you know. It really, you know, it's I look for that,
Mm.
you know, or something. I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I hear him, you know. And a couple of times he came to me, like when Abuelito passed away, I was destroyed. You know, I went to the kitchen. I mean, I went to the funeral, and I was crying, and I wanted the one thing I wanted was I wanted to say goodbye to him before he passed away. I don't know if you remember when I got the news. Remember?
Yeah.
And I was crying because you know, like I was leaving the next day to go see him, you know, and he passed away. And I'm like, all right, 24 hours later, and here I am on the plane going, you know, to the funeral. And I got there, and it was, you know, the casket was open, but there was a glass case on top. And I was like, no, I don't want to see his through a glass case. And I opened up the glass case because I wanted to hold Abuelito. I wanted to hold his hand. I wanted to give him a kiss goodbye. You know, and I was crying. And I was like, I'm so sorry for anything and everything I ever did. I said, I wanted to see you, and I did. But then that night, when I was sleeping, and I had a dream, you know, I went to the old house where we lived in Woodside, and I went into the bedroom, their bedroom, and the door closed behind me. And it was the bedroom exactly the way it was. And I was like, well, this can't be it. And there was the window there. I went to the yard, and I said, no, wait, maybe this. If I go out to the window, if I see the yard, and this is the place. And I looked out the window, and there was the yard, our backyard, exactly the way it was. And I said, oh my god, this is the room. Okay, this is the place. And I turned around, and I saw the chair in the corner where he always put his clothes when he came home from work. You know, it's just a chair. It was just there, and he would come and he'd take off his pants and his shirt and lay it there, and his pajamas were on the chair. You know, and there was the bed, and then there was the furniture, the nightstand, and then there was the armory with the alarm clock, the same alarm clock that he always had. And I went and I touched the knob on the alarm clock, and it made the same sound. And I said, this is the place. This is the actual place. Okay, here it is. Because when my dad's not here, you know, he is gone." And the door opened, and he came in, and he came in with his suit, and he looked like young, like when I remember him when he was young, and back in those days. And he came towards me with his arms open. He goes, Papi, Papi. And I said, Papi. And I grabbed him and I was holding him like I was a child, you know? And I was crying and and I wanted to say goodbye. I wanted to say goodbye. And I could feel him touching me in the back of my head. And he told me, I know. Don't worry. And he says to me, he goes, don't worry. From now on, everything is going to be okay. Trust me. He goes, I'm okay now. You're going to be okay. Trust me. Okay. And I was like, all right, I promise. You know, and he said, I love you. And I said, I love you too. And I woke up. And I was like, that was not just a dream. He did come and say goodbye to me. Because that wasn't just a coincidence. And people can say, oh, well, you were at the funeral. You were thinking about him and this and that. When I said, no, that was not just a coincidence. It happened in my dream, you know? And a couple of years later, I had another dream. Things were kind of rough. I was going through a really bad moment. And I sat down in the front, and in the dream, I sat down in the front steps of our old house in Woodside. And the front door opened, and Abuelito came out, and he sat next to me. And I said, hey, Pop. And he said, hey. And he said, what's the matter? I said, no, just, this and that and whatever, and this and that. And he said, don't you remember me telling you a long time ago, everything's going to be okay? I told you, everything's going to be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry. Okay? And I was like, okay, all right. And that was the end of that. And I woke up and it was fine. And then when I was working in Publix, is when I was, you know, going to other moments, and then I had a dream. I was in a food truck, and it looked like we were in Manhattan. And across the street was another food truck. And while I was inside, I looked across the street, and he was there in the other truck across the street. And I was cooking food, and so was he. And then I pointed outside, like, come outside. And he was like, okay. And he came outside, and he came across the street and came next to me and said, what's the matter? I said, just, this shit going on over here. Me telling him. And he says, okay. And he says, all right. He goes, I told you before everything's going to be okay, right? And I was like, yeah. He says, okay, so don't worry, what are you worried about? He's you over here worrying about stuff, and you got the food burning in the kitchen. And I was like, okay. So I started laughing. And then all of a sudden, the streets got cloudy and everything. And he said, get in here quick. And he took me inside the lobby of a building. And we closed, and we could see that the doors were closed, and we saw people running in a dark cloud coming over, and it got really dark. And then it started raining and pouring. It almost looked like a little river or like a little flood going by, not a tsunami, but like, just heavy, heavy rain and a little bit of flooding going on. And I was looking outside, and he was next to me, and he was telling me, he goes, took you in here because I wanted you to be okay. So don't worry, everything's gonna be all right? Because things may happen, but you're gonna be fine. So that was like a symbol telling me that Louie's gonna be here no matter what. So there are moments where I may talk to myself and say, look, what do I do now? What do I do here? Like, especially if I'm at work. And I always got like a little answer. Could be anything. That's why I always knew he was there.